Hello, welcome to Modern Wisdom Moments from Modern Wisdom Press. My name is Nathan, and I am here with Pete Berridge. He is an executive coach and the CEO of Change Positive. He is also the co-author of the new release, Feedback Reimagined, Transform Your Organization Through Positive Psychology and Social Support. Hey, Pete.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you.
Congratulations on getting your book into the world.
Thanks, and congratulations to us. We did it together.
Yes, thank you so much. So let's just start with a very broad and general question. What's wrong with feedback right now? Or what has traditionally been the issue with feedback in the workplace?
It's painful. It's hard. It can be really difficult to give people feedback. Oh, you like the cat in the background?
Yeah,
That's Marty. That's Marty, named after Marty Seligman, the founder of the field of positive psychology. So feedback's hard because we have a negativity bias. We're physiologically designed to see potential threats, emotional threats, physical threats, that sort of thing. And so when we're interacting with other people, we take notice of things that bug us, that bother us. And so when we think about feedback, we often get stuck on offering people feedback on what's not working. And then we get stuck because we don't know how to say it.
Oh, so it's not only hard to receive, it's hard to communicate. It's in both directions. Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, because the person that you're giving it to also has their negativity bias. Their screen's going there, waiting to hear, okay, well, what do you mean we need to have a conversation? Mm-hmm. What do you mean you have feedback for me? Even that word feedback actually gives us a physiological response that's different than if we say to another individual, would you like some advice? Physiologically, it just feels different if I say, would you like some feedback, Nathan?
Right.
Or if I say to you, would you like some advice? And just let that settle in. Yeah. So feedback's broken because of a lot of different reasons. However, one, it's just difficult to do. But also the way in which feedback, especially in organizations, which is primarily the focus of the work that we do, is a number of things. One, feedback oftentimes is tied to promotions or compensation. So it really compromises intention. What is this about? As opposed to feedback for development and growth. Also, feedback oftentimes is confidential. You receive feedback, maybe it's comments in a performance review, or maybe it's a 360, which is this method of providing feedback anonymously to people around you. Maybe it's a rating scale, something like that. And so you don't have context. You don't know the context of a comment. You don't know the tone in which it was sent. And oftentimes we read comments in a more, again, with the negativity bias, harsh manner than if somebody's actually talking to us and we can hear their tone and see their face in that. Also, the focus becomes then on what's not working. And even if you surround it with this good stuff and say, I love these things about you, here's something that bugs me or that doesn't work very well. We're going to tune into that one thing. The focus becomes that. And then finally, when we get this feedback, we can feel just lack of support, that we're in it by ourselves. So oftentimes it leads people to feeling unclear, discouraged, isolated, as if their colleagues are against them rather than for them. Yeah.
And then, so how does an organization recognize that their system's broken? I mean, it's what they've been doing, right? And we probably, to a certain extent, expect feedback to be painful, right? So how do they know that something's wrong and something can be shifted? So
the interesting thing is that we end up then designing processes that actually work against us. So the design aspects of it really aren't working. But in organizations, we feel that's what you need to do. And so we do these things around it. Like we say, feedback's a gift. You only get it so many times in your executive career or your leadership career. So you need to look at it differently and take it as a gift. We surround it with confidentiality because we want people to feel safe saying what needs to be said. And so if you actually get underneath all of that and you say, why do we design it that way? What it really comes down to is because we don't know how to do it constructively. because of this negativity bias. So if we start there and we change that and we teach people how to give constructive feedback, then those designs can change. Then it doesn't need to be confidential. Then there doesn't need to be a summary report. Then it doesn't need to be a rating on a scale of 1 to 10 or whatever it is, different competencies. So that's really what we're talking about, is how do we actually help people overcome that negativity bias to think about feedback in a constructive way. When you do that, you can change the systems.
Yeah, and it feels like such a fundamental part of communication in the workplace that, you know, wherever you might want to go, you won't get there without addressing this, you know? And so I'm wondering, you know, who in the organization tends to be your champion? Who's raising their head up from the desk and saying, there's another way, I need some support? Who is that person?
Frankly, it's every person in the organization, because everybody has had a bad experience with feedback. Whenever we run training programs and so forth, and we ask people about feedback, 9 out of 10 comments will be negative. And so frankly, it oftentimes in an organization, it might be the head of human resources, or it is going to be even more frequently, it's going to be somebody outside of human resources, because within HR and OD and learning and development, we tend to think that this is the way it needs to be. The confidentiality is a given, summary reports are a given, all that sort of stuff. But when you actually have a leader in the organization say, wait a second, there's a different way, and they experience it, then it really starts to spread. And that's when people start to pay attention, and they look for new ways of doing it.
Yeah. I'm reading a lot and hearing a lot of talk about the future of work. I think with the post-pandemic experience, there's a lot of shifting going on, and especially around how we work remotely, and how the idea of teamwork is shifting, and workers' well-being is also more to the forefront.
And also intergenerational.
Intergenerational. Yeah.
Multiple different generations working together with different values and expectations. Yeah.
And so where can we go with a healthier feedback system? You know, it feels like it ripples out into the whole sense of teamwork, and the way that does it also impact the way people interact on a day-to-day basis, or is there more comfort?
Definitely. Because when we can actually learn those skills of providing good feedback to others, and we do it in a very simple way within the methodology that we talk about and that we train on. And that is helping people to get from problem focused to solution focused. Mm-hmm. So we're naturally going to see what's not working. It takes work and intention to actually get to what do you want instead.
Yeah.
So the way that we do that is simply asking questions like, and what would it look like if they were even more effective in that realm? What would you see? What would be a small step? Or when they've done it before that's worked well for you, what did they do then? And once we identify what we want rather than what we don't, that's much easier to say to another individual. Yeah. So if you can teach people that process, then they start to use that new approach with each other. And the response from that is, thanks, this is helpful to me. And also when we frame it in the area of development rather than evaluation, that this way of feedback is all about developing and helping the other person to succeed. But in order to do that, there's another part of it, which is we need to recognize that we need to be an ally to them in that. So if I were to give you feedback and I were to say, you know, I love it when we do our sessions on book writing and so forth, and here's something that will work even better for me. I like it when you do X, or it really helps me when you do a time frame for the next month, or when you come and you have a follow-up on the questions from last time, and you lay that out, because my mind is always thinking ahead. Oh, what's the next? What the next? That's just how I'm built. Is that something you'd be willing to do for me? Mm-hmm. What that does then, that doesn't feel threatening to you. It doesn't feel threatening to me to offer it. And it also, it really paints that picture of what it is that will help you develop relative to me. One of the underlying concepts in feedback to understand is that feedback is not truth and it is not objective. Feedback is relative and relational to the person providing it to you. And different people have different needs. So if I'm an executive in an organization, the board has one need from me around communication and strategy and stuff like that. My peers have a different expectation from me, and definitely my direct reports have a different expectation from me. And then even individually, based on their styles, they have different expectations. So when I can say, if you were to do this, it would help me, or I wish you would this, it recognizes that the feedback is not just about you, it's about us together. That's a big difference. We tend to think that feedback is objective and it is truth, and it's not at all.
That's amazing. I love that. So it's acknowledging that we're all just people here doing this thing together.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you think about it in terms of like, how can we do our best work together? What do you need from me? What do I need from you?
It feels, you know, the ripple effects of that shift in perspective and communication. I can it will be unstoppable, you know, once it gathers momentum, because, you know, the companies that engage in this, their retention will be much greater, I'm imagining. And then for those people who do, you know, go off and pursue other opportunities, they're going to take this awareness with them and have expectations that I'm going to be treated like a human being. And I also know how to treat others with compassion and respect.
They're going to be seen as people that can have the tough conversations, because they're no longer tough conversations, but they're tough subjects. But that skill then of developing, okay, if this is a tough subject, we're having something between us, and I do the work of thinking about, oh, what would I want? How would I say that? What would that mean? And do I recognize that I own a part of that as well? I'm going to be seen as a person that actually gets things done in one of the hardest realms, which is around getting work done with others in the realm of relationships, rather than just being a subject matter expert or something like that. So that increases my capabilities tremendously.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And then, you know, it makes me think about, you know, reprioritizing the qualities that we're looking for in executives too, you know, as opposed to numbers and the hard decisions and, you know, all of that. It's more like raising all sails.
And back to the intergenerational stuff. I mean, the generations coming into the workplace now are already, the majority of the workplace now are saying, coach me, don't criticize me. You know, people want to learn and develop. We have basic human drivers. We want to be competent and good at what we do. We want to have significance, that what we do actually matters in the world. We don't want to have relatedness, good relationships, and feeling like we belong. And then also autonomy, that we have some control over our world. And feedback is one of those things that's critical to that ability to communicate well with other individuals. Yeah.
Yeah, it in my experience, it's one of the keystones to emotional maturity.
Oh, I like that, emotional maturity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Someday I'll have that.
Well, it's a path. It's a path that, you know, with only one finish line. And so Pete, how do people work with you? Are you working with the whole company? Are you training, you know, just a core team to then do the work? And how long do you tend to work with people as well?
We have a number of different offerings. So at Change Positive, we offer the Shift Positive 360 certification for coaches and organizational development, leadership development individuals. And so that's actually a methodology that is using these principles, where it is a constructive 360 being done around a leader. So an external coach, an internal coach will come to us, and we'll train them in this methodology to do the Shift Positive 360. And then they can do that on their own. They can do that within an organization. And that's where it has a nice impact inside an organization. So those people then are trained to go about doing it inside the organization. The other thing that we do then is that out of those coaches, we have a select group called our Shift Partners, where when an organization wants to make a larger change, we can come in and work with an entire leadership team and take each of them through that Shift Positive 360, have them work with a coach that is steeped in this same information and the same approach, and help them to have that dialogue with each other. One of the most important things in an organization is that the executive team, the leadership teams, are able to have the conversations they need to have. Without that, the people beneath them cannot be successful. It creates silos unintentionally. if their managers are not on the same page. So we're teaching them to have that constructive dialogue with each other. And we can facilitate their sessions in addition to doing the Shift Positive 360, but we can help them to get more and more ingrained in this approach to communication with each other. We also then have some other offerings where we train managers in the constructive way to provide feedback, because they're doing it every day. And especially, you know, performance reviews and stuff like that. And to be able to actually work through and learn all of the steps to creating constructive feedback, and to go and practice it, come back with a cohort, debrief, learn with real examples and real experiences. And then for the entire organization, what we have is we work within the systems that they've got, so that individual employees can actually create their own group of allies and use social support for their professional development, simply by reaching out through whatever their technology platform might be. It might be Workday or Reflective or Slack or Microsoft Teams or something like that. But basically, if you and I were peers and we worked in an organization, and I'd say, you know, Nathan, I value your opinion. I'd love to have you tell me, what do you appreciate about me? What do you see as my strengths? What could I do to be even more effective? And then out of those, what would you be willing to help me with, to watch for in real time and to reinforce it when it happens? So we want to, and I could do that with a host of people around me, you know, 5, 6, 10 people, something like that. And I can work on my own development, on my own professional development through those connections with others in the organization without anybody else's involvement. And that's what we think is going to have the biggest impact on one of the biggest drivers in organizations, is raising employee engagement. Because we know an engaged employee is far, far more productive than an employee who is not engaged. And so if we can give them the tools to actually work on their own professional development by engaging the people around them to become allies, then we're going to see those engagement scores go up. We're going to see that bottom line impact increase.
That's amazing. That's so wonderful. The impact, the potential impact, and the impact you're already having feels really good. As someone who's worked in very toxic environments, it's a radical and logical proposition. So thank you so much for your work and for taking the time to write and publish a book. Okay,
thank you for helping us to get there. This has been, you know, we've put these things out there in little snippets and articles and different ways. We've shared these messages and podcasts and so forth, but you and Catherine really were the ones that brought it together for us and helped us to be able to make sure that this thing came together in a book, in a very good book, in a very streamlined way. And I couldn't be more happy with the whole process.
Thank you so much, Pete.
Yeah, that's a special gift that you guys are doing in the world, is helping people who have these ideas, experiences, and forward-looking ways that we can be impactful in the world. And you're helping them to actually put it into something that other people can then digest, learn from, and that impacts their lives.
Well, it's our honor to work with you. Thank you so much.